Welcome back to Whyloric, the podcast for curious minds. I'm your host, and every episode we explore something worth thinking about. Career, life, culture, history, or just the little whys we never stop asking. Today we're talking about why your career plan was never the plan. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's get into it.
Imagine keeping a spreadsheet of your own unhappiness.
Oh, wow. That sounds incredibly bleak.
Right. But just imagine tracking it for 6 months, like row by row, until the cold, hard data actually proves to you that out of 24 weekends, you spent 22 of them just completely dreading Monday morning.
22 out of 24. That's almost half a year of ruined weekends.
It is. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what we're getting into today. We are doing a deep dive into the anatomy of a career pivot.
Yes, and it's such a fascinating topic.
It really is. So we're pulling our insights today from an interview on the show The Turning Point. It features Sarah Chen, who is an ex-corporate lawyer, and she completely rewired her life to become a career transition coach.
Which is quite the leap, you know?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And our mission for this deep dive is to move way past those glamorous Hollywood myths of quitting your job. We want to uncover the gritty, psychological, and honestly, the really uncomfortable steps of starting over.
Because it is rarely glamorous.
No, not at all. So, okay, let's unpack this, because the fantasy of the dramatic career exit is practically baked into our culture at this point.
Oh, totally.
You know the scene. You hit a breaking point, you flip your desk over, you tell your boss exactly what you think of them, and then you just storm out into the sunshine.
A Jerry Maguire moment.
Exactly. But looking at this source material, the reality of burnout doesn't look like an explosion at all. It is, it's entirely stealthy.
It is, and that stealth is exactly what makes it so dangerous.
Yeah.
This deep dive is really going to challenge how you, the listener, think about your own professional identity. Because when we expect that cinematic desk flipping moment, we become blind to the actual mechanisms of burnout.
We're looking for the wrong signs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For high-achieving people, a crisis rarely looks like a meltdown or some sudden catastrophic failure. The architecture of your life doesn't just collapse overnight. It slowly hollows out from the inside.
And that hollowing out is exactly where Sarah's narrative starts. We are looking at year 2 of her law career.
Early on.
Very early. And on paper, she is on the express train to the corner office. She's got the high salary, the massive firm. She's checking every single societal box.
Living the dream, supposedly.
But she describes being on a phone call, actively billing a client, and literally having to inflict physical pain on herself, like pinching herself just to stay awake.
Wow, that's visceral.
It really is.
Yeah.
And in that specific moment, a very heavy realization hits her. She realizes she was really good at something she fundamentally did not care about.
Yeah.
And she describes this creeping burnout with this beautiful but honestly haunting metaphor. She says it's like a plant that's dying, but it only loses one leaf at a time.
What's fascinating here is the neurobiology behind that one leaf at a time metaphor.
Tell me about that.
Well, we are wired to respond to acute threats, right? Like a sudden drop in revenue, a terrible performance review, or some glaring failure.
Very big stuff.
Right. If a plant turns completely brown overnight, your brain's threat detection system fires up immediately. You water it, you change the soil.
You take action.
Exactly. But when the decline is incremental, like one leaf dropping on a Tuesday and then another one maybe 3 weeks later, your brain undergoes a process called habituation. Okay. Your neural baseline just resets. You tell yourself, well, the job is mostly fine. I just need another cup of coffee.
You just get used to it.
You do. You completely normalize the depletion.
And Sarah coins a term for this normalized depletion in the interview that is just devastating. She calls it efficient misery.
Efficient misery. That is wow.
Isn't it? Because the real danger isn't that you're failing at your job. The danger is that the corporate ecosystem actively rewards you for maintaining this hollowed out state.
Yes, exactly.
You hit your billable hours, you get a promotion.
Yeah.
You take on extra work, you get a bonus. To me, it's efficient misery is like driving a car with a slow leak in the tire.
I like that analogy.
Yeah, because you're still moving forward, you know.
Yeah.
You're keeping up with traffic, you're hitting all your milestones, and nobody on the side of the road is going to flag you down to tell you the car is braking.
Right.
Because to everyone else, you look like you're making great time.
And if we look at the mechanics of why nobody flags you down, it's because the system isn't designed to monitor your tire pressure at all.
Well, that's a good point.
It only measures your speed. The psychological trap here is profound cognitive dissonance.
How so?
Well, your internal physiological state is generating stress hormones. Cortisol is high, you're exhausted, the tire is flat, as you said.
Right.
But the external environment is feeding your brain's reward center with dopamine.
The praise, the bonuses, the prestige.
Exactly. The dopamine masks the cortisol. The system essentially hijacks your own neurochemistry to keep you running on empty.
That is terrifying.
It is. It makes efficient misery far more insidious than outright failure. I mean, if you fail, the machine spits you out and you are forced to change.
Yeah, you have to do something else.
But if you are efficiently miserable, you can sustain that cognitive dissonance for decades.
Decades. Because it's not just the paycheck keeping you there, is it? It's the identity enmeshment.
Oh, absolutely.
There's this really striking detail in the text where she mentions that even 3 years after she left the law firm, her mother was still introducing her at dinner parties as the attorney.
Oh, man. 3 years later.
Right. Your title just becomes this shared asset. The people around you, like your parents, your peers, they anchor their understanding of you to that specific label.
Your professional identity functions as a social shorthand for people.
Yeah.
And when you disrupt that, you aren't just renegotiating your relationship with your career.
What else are you doing?
You are forcing everyone in your network to renegotiate their relationship with you. And that creates an immense amount of social friction.
So you're fighting battles on all fronts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You are fighting your own biological habituation to stress, the dopamine loops of corporate reward, and the social expectations of your entire network.
Which makes the escape velocity required to leave almost unimaginably high. I mean, if the neurochemistry is trapping you and your own mother is clinging to your title, how do you bypass your own emotional denial?
It takes a lot.
It does. And in the text, this turning point for Sarah happens in year 5. And it wasn't some spiritual awakening or like a yoga retreat in the woods.
No, it really is.
It was a spreadsheet. She started tracking her Sunday dread.
The ultimate instrument of corporate administration, weaponized for personal liberation.
That's beautifully said. Yes. She tracked that pit in the stomach feeling for 6 solid months.
That takes dedication.
It does. And the final calculation showed she dreaded 22 out of 24 Sundays. Almost half a year of ruined weekends, just mapped out in rows and columns.
It's hard to argue with that.
It is. She took her lawyer mentality, which naturally demands evidence, and she essentially built a case against her own life. And here's where it gets really interesting. Why do high achievers need concrete data to give themselves permission to acknowledge their own misery? Like, why isn't the feeling of dread just enough?
Because high achievers possess an overdeveloped prefrontal cortex.
Okay, meaning what?
Meaning they use it to rationalize discomfort. If you are a successful professional, you have been trained your entire life to override your subjective feelings for the sake of an objective goal.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Right. You studied when you were tired, you worked weekends when you wanted to rest. You are literally an expert at gaslighting your own emotions.
Wow.
So if you just feel a vague sense of unhappiness, your brain immediately suppresses it with logic. You tell yourself things like, well, everyone hates Mondays, or the market is tough right now.
Or I should be grateful for this equity.
Exactly.
So you essentially use logic to trap yourself.
Exactly. Which means you have to use logic to free yourself. Quantifiable data is the only mechanism that strips away your ability to self-gaslight.
Because the numbers don't lie.
Exactly. By translating a highly subjective, easily dismissed feeling like I am unhappy into a cold, objective mathematical metric, 22 out of 24 Sundays, you completely change the cognitive paradigm.
You can't argue with it anymore.
No, you cannot out-rationalize a spreadsheet. It turns the decision to leave from an emotional indulgence into a logical imperative.
The math just forces your hand. So the verdict is in, and she quits.
Finally.
But the narrative quickly shatters the illusion of the graceful exit. She leaves her corner office track job with about 8 months of savings, and her grand strategic goal is simply to, quote, help people.
Which is a very vague goal.
Very vague. She even jokes in the interview about the very thin line between wanting to help people and accidentally starting a cult.
That's hilarious, but also true.
Right, so she's sitting in this messy aftermath with no actual plan. And she enters what she calls a phase of productive avoidance.
Oh, yes. A phase that almost every single person who pivots will experience, whether they realize it or not.
It is so recognizable. For 2 whole months, She is just reading books about finding your purpose. She's taking online personality quizzes.
Doing everything but the actual work.
Exactly. And the most glaring example, she redesigned her website 11 times before putting a single word of text on it.
11 times.
11. She was, in her own words, decorating the runway of a plane that isn't built yet.
That is such a vivid image.
I look at that and it reminds me of like an engine revving in neutral.
That's the perfect mechanical explanation for it, actually.
Right. Because when a car is in neutral and you press the gas pedal to the floor, you hear a massive amount of noise, you burn a ton of fuel,
Yep.
the engine is doing the work of a sports car, and you feel the vibration of effort, but the transmission isn't actually engaged with the wheels.
So you aren't going anywhere.
There is zero forward momentum, which means there is zero risk of crashing. Taking personality quizzes or tweaking the hex codes on a blank website gives you the sensation of velocity without the danger of actually hitting the road.
It's a very specific kind of self-sabotage that feels like progress. And to understand why we put the engine in neutral, we have to look at the brain's threat response again.
Okay, let's hear it.
When you step off a highly structured conventional path, you lose all your external guardrails.
Right, the promotions, the annual reviews.
Yes, and the amygdala interprets this lack of structure and uncertainty as a literal physical threat.
Wow.
Productive avoidance is a defense mechanism against that terror. When she is redesigning that website for the 11th time, she is self-medicating her anxiety.
Because it feels like she's in control.
Exactly. Checking off a task, any task really, no matter how meaningless, releases a tiny hit of dopamine. It temporarily soothes the nervous system.
So you're tricking your brain into feeling safe by simulating work.
Yes, simulating work to avoid the fear of real work.
But the safety of a simulated runway can't last forever, right? Especially with an 8-month financial runway ticking down in the real world.
No, the money runs out.
Exactly. So what actually shifts the transmission into drive? It wasn't a sudden burst of inspiration. The source text points to something much more mundane.
What was it?
Boredom. She literally got bored of being scared.
Oh, that is fascinating. And it highlights a very real principle of human behavioral biology.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fear and anxiety are incredibly high energy metabolic states. It demands a massive amount of cognitive and physical resources to maintain a state of panic or hypervigilance for weeks on end.
It's exhausting.
It is. Your nervous system simply cannot sustain it indefinitely. Eventually, the fear just exhausts its fuel supply and recedes.
Wow.
And when that acute threat response tires out, human boredom rushes in to fill the vacuum.
And boredom demands novelty.
Precisely. Boredom is a low-energy state that makes stagnation physically uncomfortable.
Right.
When you are finally too bored to take your 12th personality quiz, the friction of doing nothing becomes greater than the fear of doing something.
That makes a lot of sense.
Boredom is the evolutionary catalyst that forces you to interact with the real world again.
And interacting with the real world is where the actual pivot begins. So Sarah finally gets bored enough to just grab coffee with 10 people.
She's just putting herself out there.
Yeah, no agenda, just pure curiosity. And during one of these conversations with a woman doing the exact coaching work Sarah is interested in, she receives advice that completely rearranges her mental framework.
God, what does she tell her?
The woman tells her, "You don't need a new identity. You need a new use for your old one."
That single sentence dismantles the biggest psychological barrier to career transition.
Doesn't it? Up until that point, Sarah had been trying to erase the corporate lawyer. She thought starting over meant she had to become a completely different species of human.
Which is overwhelming.
Right. But she realizes that her lawyer skills, like her ability to negotiate, her elite pattern recognition, her capacity to sit across from a client in crisis and remain totally unshakable, those were 100% transferable to coaching.
The skills are the same.
Exactly. She didn't need to destroy the lawyer. She needed to repurpose her. So what does this all mean? To me, it completely removes the paralysis of a pivot.
It totally reframes it.
Right. We freeze because we think changing careers is a demolition project. We think we have to burn our past selves to the ground.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of cognitive biases, viewing a pivot as a demolition triggers massive loss aversion.
Loss aversion.
Yes, in behavioral economics, loss aversion dictates that the pain of losing something is psychologically twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining something equal.
Twice as powerful.
Yes, so if you view your transition as demolition, you are telling your brain that the last 10 years of your life, the law degree, the late nights, the networking, were a complete waste.
And nobody wants to feel like they wasted a decade.
Exactly. Your brain will actively fight that realization. The sunk cost fallacy will keep you chained to a job you hate just to avoid admitting the investment was lost.
But a renovation changes the math entirely.
It changes the math by preserving the capital. A renovation honors the foundation.
Right. It says the structural integrity is excellent. The raw materials are high quality. We just need to knock down a wall and change the floor plan.
I love that.
It allows you to carry your hard-earned equity into the new venture. It drastically lowers the emotional stakes of change because you aren't mourning the death of your old identity.
You're just upgrading its operating system.
Upgrading the operating system, yes.
That is such a vital reframe for anyone listening right now who feels trapped by their own resume. So the stakes are lowered. We are renovating. We are not bulldozing.
Right.
But what does that actually look like on a Tuesday? Because the text draws a very sharp contrast between the glossy 5-year plan and the gritty Tuesday morning version.
And Tuesday morning version, I like that.
Her Tuesday morning strategy was remarkably small. Just talk to one person a week who is doing something you are genuinely curious about.
Just one person.
One conversation a week. Not writing a business plan. Not incorporating an LLC.
It is the intentional shrinking of the objective to bypass the amygdala's alarm bells. But I have to stop you there because realistically, if you are the person listening to this right now, sitting in a job you dread 22 out of 24 Sundays, well, talking to just one person a week feels absurdly insufficient.
It feels slow.
It feels like bringing a teaspoon to bail out a sinking ship.
How does a single coffee chat actually bridge the gap between being a corporate lawyer and a career coach?
I get that. It feels insufficient because we are culturally conditioned to worship the massive decisive leap.
Right, the desk flip.
Exactly. But massive leaps demand a level of certainty that you fundamentally do not possess at the beginning of a pivot.
It's true, you don't know anything yet.
Right. If you try to draft a 5-year plan when you don't even know what industry you want to be in, your brain registers a massive knowledge gap.
And then what happens?
That gap triggers the threat response we talked about earlier, and you immediately retreat to productive avoidance. You go right back to redesigning the website.
Oh, wow. So the grand plan actually causes the paralysis. Exactly. Micro steps, like talking to one person a week, are the only sustainable way to build what we might call certainty data.
Certainty data.
Yes. When you sit down for coffee, you are not deciding your entire future. You are just gathering one single low-stakes data point.
You're just researching.
You are testing a hypothesis. You are asking, does this person's Tuesday sound like a Tuesday I would enjoy?
You are engaging the exact same spreadsheet mentality she used to diagnose her burnout, but now you're using it for discovery.
Yes.
She never left the analytical lawyer behind. She just pointed the lawyer at a new case.
Precisely.
You are just collecting evidence for what you actually want, one coffee at a time. It pulls the entire methodology together so well.
It really does.
But as we look at the reality of implementing this, we have to talk about the cost of inaction. Because at the end of the interview, Sarah is asked about her biggest regret in this whole process.
And what was it?
It wasn't the messy middle. It wasn't the lost salary. Her single biggest regret was waiting for an external permission slip that was never, ever going to come.
Wow. It's a brutal realization, but a necessary one.
Yeah.
High achievers are conditioned to wait for the gold star. We wait for a sign from the universe or a specific severance package or a mentor tapping us on the shoulder to say it is officially safe to jump.
But there is no rescue party.
No, there isn't.
Nobody is monitoring your internal dashboard. The system is perfectly happy to let you run on empty forever. You have to be the one to decide that the Sunday dread has cost you enough.
The corporate ecosystem isn't malicious, you know. It is simply indifferent.
Indifferent. That's the perfect word.
It will extract your energy for as long as you're willing to provide it in exchange for dopamine. The realization that you alone must authorize your exit is terrifying, but it is ultimately the mechanism of your freedom.
So for you listening right now, whether you are actively plotting an escape route from your own corner office, or whether you are just quietly evaluating the trajectory of your current path, the mechanics of this transition are entirely in your hands. You do not need to demolish your past. You do not need a flawless 5-year plan by tomorrow morning. You just need to take the engine out of neutral.
Yes.
Stop decorating the runway and start gathering your certainty data. Sarah's parting advice is the most practical place to begin. Start the spreadsheet. Map the mathematical reality of your current situation.
And as you think about how to apply this analytical lens to your own career, I want to leave you with one final thought to explore on your own.
Let's hear it.
If you were to open a blank spreadsheet to track your life starting tomorrow, what subtle, everyday metric would give you the most unarguable data about your current trajectory? Is it your Sunday dread? Is it the number of times you hit snooze? Or is it something else entirely? Measure it and see what the data demands you do next.
And that's it for today's episode of Whyloric. If you enjoyed this, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if something today made you think, made you curious, or even made you smile, let me know in the comments. Until next time, stay curious. This has been Whyloric. See you in the next episode.